If you're comfortable, close your eyes. It's okay if you're not. And I want you to think about the last game that you played. And that can mean whatever you need it to mean. It can be a board game, it can be an imaginary game, it can be a conversation that really actually felt like it was a game underneath, but nobody really knew it until you started talking. What was the last game that you played? Let yourself be there for a moment. What were the rules? Did you know them? Were they what you expected? Were they the same as the last time you played that game? Did someone different have another way of playing? Was it fun? How did it end? Did it end? I'm going to ask you to think about that some more later, but bring the spirit of play with you back to the room when you're ready. We are big game players at my house. Current favorites include Azul, Settlers of Catan, Parcheesi. One of my children is particularly brutal during Parcheesi, and Gin Rummy, which used to be the one that I always won. We started our kids early and added to the collection of board games regularly. We've spent countless hours together engaged in various pursuits that ranged from learning to count plastic cherries on a tree to building worlds and civilizations, and then imperializing everybody else on the board, as you do. Every Saturday night is game night, and it still brings us great joy. I will say, however, that the nature of our play has changed through the years. Our kids have evolved into smack-talking, but mostly good-natured players. Truly competitive, but capable of losing. Looking back, however, I can see this approach to family games was learned. From my husband, of course, I am always the best sport. It's not true, like at all. In the beginning, their only real goal was to keep playing. When someone won a game that we were playing in those early days, our kids would propose that the winner re-enter the game, either by starting over or by teaming up with someone who had not been eliminated. We would change the rules to accommodate the fun, and single games could last as long as we collectively wanted them to. Over time, as they came to value the winner's slot, but still wanted to continue the game, we often played for second or even third place. This rarely happens now, although from time to time, the good Reverend Hull will make a sacrifice move in one of our games to shore up a player who is clearly doomed for the good of the group. An extension of the gameplay and an insurance policy for more fun for all. He is clearly a middle child. While we are still having a great deal of fun, we have all adapted and largely adhere to the goal of winning, which, as a matter of course, ends the game. What a peculiar thing to choose as entertainment. To win, you must play better than anyone else and end the game. Shut it down. Be the victor. You must limit your opponent's options, maximize your own, seek advantage, surprise them with strategy, and end things with them holding the bag. These are what literature of religion professor James P. Carr calls finite games. They have rules that are agreed upon, They begin and end at specific points. There is a clear winner or ranking at their conclusion. I would add that they offer certainty that we crave, even at the expense of more time engaged in play. Professor Kars contrasts these finite games with infinite games, play that seeks to continue playing, as found with young children in board games, but even more in games of the imagination or creativity. The object in infinite play is the play itself. The fun of engaging, being together, co-creating situations, and maneuvering within them. What infinite play requires is fluidity, flexibility, and accommodation. So what we learn from infinite play are the skills and the capacities for interdependence, for inclusion, for multiculturalism, and frankly, for long-term survival, not just of the fittest. Infinite play doesn't always have clear rules, and players must renegotiate even the unspoken rules. We are working on a game called Chaos Rummy, which the good Reverend Hull is resisting mightily. To invite new players, to continue when someone has to go eat dinner, to make it possible for all to engage in the play effectively, and for all to enjoy the game, the rules must be constantly renegotiated. Infinite play is open-ended, lacks a starting line or a finishing move. Infinite play rarely requires secret strategy, as there is no singular winner. Infinite play is relational. In other words, the imaginative play of childhood is a better training ground for the world we claim to believe in and value than the activities we choose as games as we age. But we grow comfortable with clearly defined situations and cultural definitions of what it means to lose and the sacrifices we make in order to have a chance at least ranking high or high enough to make it in today's world. We learn to prioritize predictability and rules over flexibility and inclusion. I've drawn a big and kind of clunky metaphor here, and I know someone out there is itching to tell me that they're going right home to play late capitalism Monopoly. It's fun, Reverend Julia, and you are being a party pooper. I have to be honest with you. I'm a parent of twin teens. My primary role in life is to be a party pooper. I also have to tell you that the notion of finite games aside, I believe Monopoly is a form of torture that should be banned internationally. But none of that is the point. The point is to recognize in our play that which is true outside of the play, to use the play as the place to practice. The point is to see our preference for certainty over growth. The point is to acknowledge our preference for winning or being right over learning and changing. The point is to find ways to face the reality of our always changing, unpredictable, and infinitely variable, interconnected web of all existence. What would be true for us today if we worked the lessons of infinite play more regularly? What would be true for our neighborhoods, for our church, for our nation, our globe, if new players and new circumstances merited renegotiation? accommodation, shifts and changes as a matter of course. What would happen if we, instead of ending games when we find ourselves on the winning team, ask what we would have to do to keep playing, to stay engaged in the spirit of infinite collective play and exploration? What if, when faced with a challenge, we approached it like a group of kids who were trying to eke out those last few minutes of fun before the streetlights come on? What rules would we have to change? What assumptions would we revisit? And I think most importantly, what conversations would we finally have to have? Imagine a world of play that continues, of engagement for everyone, of flexibility, where winning is enjoying the benefit of being involved rather than creating the biggest pile of gold or real estate or privilege or political power, or even my beloved book knowledge. Imagine a world that asks what we need to do in this moment to keep playing, to be and stay with one another in this one and true, real moment. Imagine the flow. Imagine the reciprocity that our collective imaginations could inspire in our most staid and crusty systems, if we could only resolve to weather the uncertainty of allowing it. It's big, what I'm asking you to imagine. And I think it feels a little bit like the specter of the unending committee meeting. But we'd be negotiating all of the time. We'd never finish negotiating. Yes. Yes. We would never finish negotiating. I know it's possible. I see it happening. I see it in families. I see it in communities. I've seen it here at UUCD, and I saw it at General Assembly in Pittsburgh 2 weeks ago, something I'll talk more about. I see people asking what we would need to change to allow more people the benefits of the games in which we are engaged. I see people asking what rules and traditions we need to change to welcome more into a circle of spiritual play in which we, as a faith community, are engaged. I see people listening and challenging themselves and one another to be less certain, to be more open, and to stay in the game and keep playing. Keep imagining, keep singing and hoping and dreaming together. In the week to come, I ask you to do some things. First of all, I'm going to ask you to play. Play anything, even if it's the soul killer Monopoly. Do something that you enjoy, that is not just pleasurable, but fun. Those are different. Go for fun. Even if you don't feel that you've checked off enough boxes or completed enough tasks or earned that fun in any way. Please, dear ones, claim some playtime and do it consciously. Choose it. Be intentional and be present for it. And also, look for the finite and infinite game skills in your days, in your lives. Notice when you're relying on certainty and rules that exclude or shorten the game, because sometimes the surest way to exclude is to shorten the game. Notice when you're moving from a place of scarcity and acquisition. Notice when you're drawing your circles of experience and appreciation in narrow ways that you have outgrown, that your wise soul knows better than. Notice when you're in an endless loop of tic-tac-toe with someone else who knows the secret. Notice how you apply the tools of play to your own life. And consider the possibility of changing the rules to explore the playfulness and possibility that awaits us if we are brave and creative enough to claim it. May it be so. Amen. Please rise and body your spirit as you are able or willing, and